Thanks, y'all, to allow me to jump in the conversation. It's good to see several of you again. I need to ask some questions just about the Water Resources Reform Development Act, the WRDA Act that we passed last year, one of the rare things that did pass through Congress last year. In it has a requirement to conduct an assessment of all the properties from the Corps of Engineers to determine which are, quote unquote, not needed for the mission of the Corps of Engineers. So it's an inventory statement and then a basic ability to be able to say this is priority areas, this is possibly non-priority areas. Has the Corps begun that assessment at this point?
We have begun that assessment, and I believe you're referring to the $18 billion of projects that we believe we can divest from authorized projects. And
it's from the WRDA. It's from last year, and it's just a list of all projects. So it's not just the new, but it's current inventory of all projects nationwide.
Yes, we're working on that as well, and we think we've got a pretty good handle on the infrastructure assessment, and we feel like that's progressing well for us.
What's your best guess on when Congress will have that report?
Could I offer, General? We will have the $18 billion deauthorization report to Congress by this September.
Okay, by September. And then the obvious next question is then, there's a desire to say if there are certain projects that are not priority projects, then there's the opportunity to say, okay, these projects should be divested or find other entities, whether it be states, counties, cities, whatever it may be, that may want to take on the management of that if they're non-priority projects on it. What is the best way to be able to handle that disposition from the Corps' perspective?
We're required through WRDA to provide a list of $18 billion worth of projects that are authorized that we believe that we can divest of, and we'll provide that list as well.
Yeah, it's not just a list of them, it's the actual process of divesting. The obvious thing from the federal government is we have a lot of extra real property laying around. We've had a very difficult time transitioning out of federal hands.
We had to divest of a project, it was a couple years ago that we've been working on, and it took quite a long time and quite a lot of money just to divest. So I'm not able to tell you now that the process, once we have that list of how we divest and what work we'll need and support we'll need from Congress, but we'll be happy to provide that. But it is a difficult process as it currently is set up.
Okay. That is an understatement, to say the least. We've had a tough time letting go of different facilities and things. And so one of the goals that I would have in the days ahead is that the Corps obviously will never have enough money. But to make sure that the low priority things that we have are things that could be divested, the Corps doesn't have to spend money on, that can be transitioned so that money could be then spent on the things that are the high priorities or that are essential to help protect some of those dollars. One of the questions from your statement, General Bostic, you talked about one of the priorities was to modernize the planning process of this. One of the struggles in the past has been that the Corps has so many projects going on at once. Is there a plan to say we're going to invest more dollars faster in a project to be able to get this done, knowing that it's more expensive to stretch it out over 10 years than it is to do it in 5, but that means doing fewer projects, but the projects that you do are cheaper and faster?
Right.
Is that in the conversation?
Absolutely. And Secretary Darcy talked a bit about this in her opening remarks about completions. One of the things we try to focus on, both with studies and with construction, is will this increment of funding complete the project? So one of the guiding principles is to look at completions. The other thing that we're doing on the front end is to make sure on these chiefs reports, and going back to what we talked about on modernizing the process, is to say, hey, you can't take 10 years, 15 years to study this. And we forced ourselves to come inside that 3-year window, and we've done pretty well with that. We've had to do some exceptions, but that process is allowing the whole process to go faster.
Anything that we can do to keep moving on that. Three Rivers project obviously is an example of that, and all the conversation for so long, and now that's moving and going. But there'll be so many other areas to look at and say, how can we get this done faster? Well, one last question on it, and it is the issue of the increase in the budget dealing with regulatory activity. There's a $5 million increase. Obviously, there are other areas. Is that related to the Waters of the U.S. rule and anticipating increased regulatory cost in that area?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know how much that's going to be eventually? Is that just an initial guess, an assumption of the $5 million is going to be the basics?
It's an initial assumption, assuming that the startup costs for doing the implementation once the rule is final, and that additional $5 million, that's more than we had last year, would.
Will there be an anticipation that this committee will be asked to have additional monies moved out of other project areas into regulatory areas because of that rule in the days ahead?
No, sir.
We believe it's going to be initially more expensive, but then it'll come down and settle. And what we're doing now is hiring 125 regulators that we couldn't hire because of sequestration, and then another 25 in order to handle waters of the United States if it's passed.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Yeah.